Hey everybody out there in Cryptid Land, me and my buddy Dirty are going to be talking to Darrell Denton tonight, and he's got some really cool stories about Bigfoot, some really up close and personal encounters, like we're talking touching, and he's also got the pale crawler story, which just blew my mind. I loved it. You're going to love it too. Plus, we're going to do a dogman story, which is going to scare the pants off you. So join us tonight on
Cryptid Quest Podcast.
So, all right. Hey, everybody out there. This is Patrick Perry, your host of Cryptid Quest. And tonight we have a very special guest, Darrell Denton. And Darrell, I know you've got a lot of great stories, encounters. I don't really like calling them stories because when it happens, it happens. It's an encounter. And your page is one of my favorites on Facebook.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, man. I'm not an expert at anything but saying my prayers. So,
Yeah.
it's I've got a lot of good people in my group, and all four of my best friends are in my group: Ron Moorhead, Barton Nunley, and Martin Groves, and Jennifer Appleton's right there with me. So, they're my team, and we research together, and Martin and I've been researching together for 30-something years. So, they're great people, good friends, and they're trustworthy. And some of the places we go, you better have somebody that's watching your back. So, we've had some crazy stuff happen to us.
I can imagine.
Anyway,
I can imagine. So, yeah.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm honored to have you, for real. And you mentioned a couple names in there. Somebody told me to ask you about your encounter when you were with Martin. And honestly, my journey into all this, even, after my encounter, but it was Ron Moorhead's tapes that really struck me. And I was like, my gosh, I've heard exactly what, he recorded. And it just, I think his recordings probably changed a lot of people's lives. I don't know.
The Sierra Sounds, they've been debunked and looked at by every scientist or forensic artist in the U.S. and above, and they can't find anything that's not real about it. The vocals, I'm not sure the exact terminology of all the sounds in it, but I've heard them so many times, and it's pretty incredible what happened to him in the early 70s, actually late 60s up to about 76. He was going to the Sierra camp, and Ron's a very close friend of mine. I talk to him or get a message from him every day, and
oh, that's cool.
He's just a book of knowledge. He probably is by far the number one guy in the world that really brought this thing and put it on the map for us. Besides Patterson and Gimlin, you got to put Ron Moorhead right up there with them. And there's some other great pioneers too. You can't forget, Paul Freeman, and there's just so many that you can go by. But Ron is still out there doing it. And he's up in age, but he's getting around, and he goes with me as much as he can. We were on the road last year at conferences speaking, and he's just a great guy, and I'm just honored to call him my close friend. And Martin Groves and I, we've done it all. So, we've had a lot of encounters. I'd say that they're probably talking about the dogman that we seen at LBL in 2022, which Small Town Monsters done a documentary on that with us in it. And so actually 3 documentaries have been done on that. And we also, Martin put me in the whole second half of Beast Between the Rivers, the second book, where we had that encounter. We were actually there for the reason of it was 29 years, not to the day, but to the year of his encounter that happened there when he was almost killed, him and his partner, by a couple of dog men and what we believe to be either Bigfoot or Gugway. But we were there for that reason, and we were going back into that area. That, as far as I know, nobody's ever been back there but me, and we were going back into that area, and it's a very strange area. and all that happened to us anyway. That particular night. That was October, I believe, the 22nd of 2022. I believe when that particular incident happened. So it's kind of strange. I've had a lot of dogman encounters in October, and that's actually our number one month for research. We start in October and we go through the 1st of May. We don't do much in the summer. It's too thick. And if you're into LBL, which we go there a lot, that's the land between the lakes of Tennessee and Kentucky, then there's so many ticks there. It's unbelievable. And they're there in January, but they're three times as bad in the summer. You know, I've seen Barton Nunley have as many as 200 on him.
Holy cow.
And he picked them off for an entire day. And, you know, we just don't go in there in the summer months. And it's too thick anyway. You can't see anything. But we'll ride the roads a little bit sometime in that area because there's a lot of stuff on those roads in the LBL. Because if you're not familiar with the LBL, it's 170,000 miles of mostly wilderness. And, you know, there's homesteads there. There's numerous family cemeteries. Some of them as old as 200 years old or older. It's just if you can get lost there pretty easy, especially on the north end where we go. Because after you get off the trace, there's roads that go to the left, to the right, and they're gravel, they're dirt, they're paved down the middle, and you get off one of those roads, and they just keep winding around back in there. You could easily get lost back in there. And people that I know have got lost back in there. But you just need to be careful up there in that area, you know. And you know, besides what you hear, a lot of people try to make it more than it is, you know. I can tell you this, when you drive into the LBL, you get a whole different feeling. I've been to a lot of places researching, and when nighttime comes, it's a different world there. Everything comes alive.
Yeah.
And certain nights are different than other nights. You know, we've had nights where we had no action of anything for, you know, a day or two, 2 or 3 nights we'd be there camping or in the cabin and go out at night and come back to the cabin. And one or the other, and then we'd hit a streak where it'd be something crazy for 2 or 3 nights in a row. And the cabin we stay in, we always have Bigfoot around our cabin. You can hear them popping limbs and snapping and taking rocks and pounding on our porch. And, you know, they're not trying to harm us. They're just trying to get our attention. So
I heard you say earlier, you mentioned the Dogman, the Bigfoot, the Dugway. So the Dugway, from my understanding, is, and this is just me just going off the top of my head, is a version of Bigfoot that looks different than your typical Bigfoot.
Well, it's actually pronounced Gugway.
Gugway. Okay.
Gugwe is the pronunciation, the spelling of it. But a Gugway is, as far as I know, that we all believe that it has a Bigfoot type body, big built body. It has the head of a wolf, and it has large teeth and a snout like a dog. And they're loners mostly, and Gugway in my native language means face eater. So, you know, the American Indians that lived in that area they tabooed that area, certain areas of the LBL way before the land between the lakes were there. It was called the rivers, between the rivers back in that particular time. And early settlers came in there in the late 1700s, and they were attacked at night by dog creatures. Their cattle were attacked, and I understand that some of the settlers were attacked too by these, what we call today, a dogman type creature. But,
okay. So go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. I have personally never seen a Gugway there. I know that I've had friends that are there a lot and go deep into the eastern part of the LBL. The eastern part's closer to the Tennessee River. It's a lot of wilderness between there, a lot of wilderness, and I'm talking about remote. And some of the people I know that have been in that area have seen Gugway. I haven't, but I know they're there, and most of the accounts come from that area.
So
the area we go in.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna. I had a quick question. So, and I'm sorry, I've been saying Gugway wrong a long time because
That's okay.
I've always pronounced it with the D, and I've been wrong this whole time. Um,
That's all right.
but I also hear about a type of Bigfoot that, and I've seen pictures of actually some friends of mine show me some trail cams pics that to me it looks like kind of like a baboon face. Do you, on a Bigfoot? Do you think that that might be something like a Gugway, or you think, or do you believe in the different types as they say of Bigfoot?
Oh, I think there's a lot of different types of Bigfoot, especially in different parts of the country. You know, you get up to Alaska in that area, they're massive up there. You
Yeah.
know, they're 15, 16 foot tall and turn trees upside down and drive them in. You know, and here, when I say here, you know, in the south of the southeast, you know, there's mostly, by what most of the researchers that I frequent with know of, there's probably 3 or 4 different types. I believe that's what I've seen. There may be more. I'm not sure how many different types there are, but there's a lot of different types of these creatures. It's no different than us being humans. You know, you have Indian people, you have Indonesian people, Egyptians, there's just all different types of people around the world. And, you know, and there's a difference in these creatures. But I know for a fact, my first sighting was what's called the wood booger. And that thing is the meanest, ugliest thing that I've ever seen. I've only seen one of those, thank goodness. I hope I never see another one.
Where was that at?
That was in Cannon County, Tennessee. That was my first experience in
I
November
think
of
that's what we have down here.
1992.
92.
So that was my granddad knew all about him. He lived on that farm all his life, and I hunted there and stayed with my granddad most all the time. I never went that far in before. I was really deep in. And, you know, that was the first one I seen. After that, my second real good encounter, I was terrified. I didn't go in the woods for almost 7 years. It just messed me up. I'd never seen anything like that. It come out of the woods and just, I thought it was going to kill me.
Yeah.
Showed me its teeth. It gritted at me. It yelled at me. It frowned at me. It looked at me like it was going to kill me. Ripped a limb out of the tree. You know, and then it let out a howl and a scream like I've never heard since.
So when that happened, I mean, were you walking on the ground? Were you in a blind? Were you in a stand?
I was about 20. My granddad had a large farm, and he had farms around him that his adjoining neighbors had. And, you know, I took my 3 buddies, Cody, Jason, and Scott. We went up there every year and stayed at my granddad's place, and we would park my camper. Had a big 38-foot camper back in that day, and we all had ATVs. They followed me in a truck with a trailer, and you know we got set up to hunt for a week. It was we went up there every year, opening day of black powder season, and hunted the whole week that it was open. And and my granddad, I told him, I said, well, we always got a deer. All of us did. It's a great area to hunt. There was plenty of deer. But I wanted a trophy deer, and my granddad pointed out an area for me to go to, and there was a good ways, and I was on his back porch, and I said, okay, I'll go there. And I went in the day before and set my stand up. It was a good hour walk, at least an hour. You had to go up 3 real steep hills, about 45 degrees, and there's a big creek at the bottom that used to be an old grist mill there at one time. And I put my stand up there, and I was about 25, 28 feet up in my tree stand. We had built stands, but that was a climbing stand that I took. And I was up in the stand when this happened. I was on a 45-degree angle, so the tree's straight up on the side of this bank, kind of overlooking this creature across the creek. And I don't get scared very easy. I don't ever remember being scared like that, and I haven't since, but I didn't really know that I believed in Bigfoot or not. I didn't say I didn't, but it really wasn't a concern to me because I didn't think they were in Tennessee. I thought if they were anywhere, they were out in California, Oregon, Washington State or British Columbia. You hear a lot more reports out in that area, but I never realized they were in Tennessee. But that was the wood bugger. The second encounter I had in 1999 that lasted almost 4 years. They were my close friends on the river. Thought very much of that class. They were really, really never aggressive, very friendly, and I became pretty good friends with that family. They looked more like the Patterson Gimlin type, that type look to them. They were non-aggressive, like I said. They're the ones that make the X's in the woods, the large X's.
Yeah.
They're,
So, quick question. I hate to keep cutting you off.
but,
What is the difference between the
no, you're
look
fine. Go ahead.
between the what you call the wood booger and the patty type? I mean, of course, everybody knows what the patty type looks like. Well, not everybody, but
Well, the wood booger, at that time, there wasn't any cell phones. And I mean, if I had a cell phone, it was one of those big old huge ones at that time, and I didn't carry it anywhere with you. It didn't have a camera on it. And,
yeah.
It was, I didn't really there wasn't any groups that talked about like there are now. I think me and Michael Patterson, I believe, started the first group on Facebook about Bigfoot, and that was in 2015. And I believe was the very first one, and people were joining like crazy because they had nobody to talk to. There's people all around the United States that seen these things, and they couldn't tell their neighbor, their friend, even their parents or their brother or sister. They thought they were crazy. So it was the same thing I was going through. So the only thing I could do, there wasn't any radio shows, there wasn't any groups. I went to the library and I tried to figure out. My granddad knew exactly what these things were. I don't know why he told me why he never told me. And remember, me and my granddad were super close. And I went to the library and I found what said to be 10 different type of Bigfoot. Now, I don't know if that's accurate or not. There may be 20 different type. I don't have a clue. But anyway, my point is, I found a book that had 10 different pictures of Bigfoot in there, and the second one was called the Wood Booger. And it looked just like what I'd seen, except the picture had red eyes, and the ones I seen had black eyes. So, but it was the same type face, the ugliest looking thing I've still ever seen. One side of his face was kind of out of contortion. It was just terrifying, to be honest with you. I remember looking at it, not knowing. I couldn't make my mind up where I wanted to fire. One shot. I had a 50 caliber slug, and I didn't know if that was going to bring this thing down.
Wow.
Because I thought it was going to come across the creek and just pull me out of that tree, so I thought it was going to do. But, now knowing what I know and all the years of experience I've had since then, if it wanted to kill me, it could have, but it just wanted to run me off and scare me out of its area. And it did a good job. I never went back there. So
apparently got its job done.
It did get its job done. But if you look up, I don't know. I've had people send me these pictures, and they've been correct. The one is called a wood booger, and supposedly they're only in Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, and Kentucky. They're in the southern area only.
I think they're in Missouri too, because I think that's what I encountered, but I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, they could be. They could be anywhere. I'm just saying what I read.
Well, I'm right on the Arkansas border, so basically the same area.
Well, I've got a lot of good friends in Arkansas that have complete clan that live around them, and they're friendly with them. So there's a lot of people out there that you never hear about. Because they don't get on the internet or Facebook and talk about it. They're just good old country folks, and they don't care to talk about it. Well, I'd say if you really broke down the sightings that's out there, we don't ever hear about it, even a quarter of them.
Oh, I'm 100% positive you're right on that. I mean, because, and honestly, like you said, down in this area, especially, it's like people have been experiencing encounters with these creatures for a long, long time, and to them it's just everyday life. Like
sure.
I saw a deer today.
Right. My friends, two of my friends, Kenny and Vicky, they live in different areas, but they're real close to each other. They're in my group, and they have a family that they've befriended for years. They go in and sit with the family and talk to them and take them things. And it's been going on for years. His favorite one is called Junior. And, Kenny and Vicky Busby, or her name's Vicky Brown, but look up them in the group. They put the stories about their Bigfoot in the group quite often. But And my group's Bigfoot Believers and Other Creatures. If you're not in it, I appreciate you joining.
Get on it,
But,
people. It's a great page.
But they post quite a bit about, their encounter or what they're doing or going to meet with them. And they've even got close enough to them to, know the babies that these, they're not an ape. I get really irritated when people call them an ape because they're an ancient people and they're smarter than a lot of humans. They have an ability that's pretty incredible. And after I spent a little over right at 4 years with my friends on the river, I learned so much from them. And, they have their own language. They understand my language. They do know English. They do know how to speak. There's a whole lot to these creatures. It takes a long time to gain trust from them. Of course, they don't trust us because we run around out in the woods with cameras and guns and, shoot at them. So I don't know how many people I see regularly talking about wanting to go out in the woods and shoot one of them. So I can tell you this much. You go in the woods and shoot one of them with a family around, good luck getting back to the truck.
You're in trouble.
They care about their family. They care about their family just like we do.
I believe that. So in one of my encounters, and it was in the area, I heard vocalizations one night, and they're coming from 4 different spots, and surrounded me, and it's like there's more than one out here. So and I don't think they were doing the vocalizations to get me. I think they were just calling each other, saying, "Hey, I'm over here. Hey, I'm over here. Hey, I'm over here." Because they were quite a distance off. But
you can count on they're never alone. If there's one, there's 3. So most of your clans are anywhere from 5 to 12. And, there's usually, and the thing about these creatures that some of them, they're just like humans. There's good and bad at them. Some of them are good. Some of them are, you don't bother them, they won't bother you. Some of them don't want you around, and quite frankly, I believe they'll hurt you.
Yeah.
So, you just don't know what kind you're going to run into. I've been deep in the woods by myself. I don't do that anymore. I've been 10 miles in the Blue Ridge National Forest in Virginia, North Carolina, and I got in there and got lost, and I was lost for almost 3 days. And,
holy cow.
Had a lot of weird things happen while I was in there, and that was back in 2021, and I won't do that again. But found my way out. But there's a lot of stuff in there's a lot of stuff in these mountains and these woods and forests, and not all of them are friendly.
Yeah,
and there's different kind of creatures too. I mean, there's not just. Well, I've seen some very strong. This is probably the year that I've seen more things than I've ever seen, and me and Barton Nunley and Martin Groves seen. I'd heard about it for years. I'd never seen one. We actually witnessed one of those crawler things.
Did you really?
Run up a tree right in front of me. I went down the trail down into the woods trying to get a picture of this thing. It went up this tree so fast, and it was in the very top of this was this last March of this year. And Martin and Barton kept saying, "Get out of there, man! Get out of there! These things may attack you." And this thing was in the top of the tree, and it was making this click, click, click sound. And it was talking to 2 more of these things up into the woods back behind me. And they were click, click, making a noise back to this thing. And I'd never seen one of them. That's the first one I'd ever seen. It's a humanoid-looking thing, real skinny and white, pale-looking, grayish white.
Oh,
He ran up that tree just like a squirrel would.
Oh, my God.
It was. I had my big flashlight on when I was walking, and when it did this, I heard something running through the woods, and I spotted it, and it ran up the tree. But anyway, that's the first time I'd ever seen one of those.
What part of the country was that in again?
That was in the land between the lakes of Tennessee.
LBL. Man, there's a lot of crazy things that happen in the LBL. I've only been through it during the daytime, and you're right, man. It's just woods and desolate, and I don't know that I'd want to be there at night.
Well, we spent a lot of nights there. We stayed in what's called Area 23 that supposedly nobody's ever spent the night there. They've tried, but these creatures run them out. And me, Martin, and Barton, we stayed there all night, and we had all kinds of crazy stuff. They tried to run us out, but we didn't run out. And, it got pretty scary about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. We could hear dogmen howling all around us, hear them running through the water behind us. The water was very shallow at that time. And they were running across the hilltops howling. And, they weren't a real close distance from us, but they wasn't far from us, and they were getting closer. And I'd never seen, I told Martin, we were sitting at a campfire in the woods, and I said, and Martin was backed up this trail in his vehicle. He had gotten zapped earlier that night. He was really sick. I drove him to a public restroom in the park a couple good ways from there twice because he felt like he was going to throw up. And he was laying back in his seat, the driver's seat, and I looked at Barton and I said, "Man, you ready? They're coming in." And they were getting close. And he said, "I'm ready." And, he had that big old sword he carries. And, you're not really supposed to carry weapons in the LBL. But, you have to be very careful what you're going to do because you don't want to get in trouble. And but they were coming in, and, I don't have any service there whatsoever on my phone. You can't call anybody or message anybody. And the strangest thing in the world, my phone rings. And it just doesn't do that. And it was my close friend, Beth Collinsworth, and she goes, "Where are you at?" And I said, "Well, she goes, "You're in the LBL." And I said, "I am." She goes, "You got dog men all around you, and you got a feral man to your left."
Feral man?
Yeah, and Beth is a real intuitive person that picks up things that like anybody I've never seen. And I said, "First of all, I have no idea how you call me. And second of all, where are they?" She goes, "Well, the dog men are all around you, and y'all need to get out of there. And there's a feral man with the dog man." And I never seen the feral man. I did see glimpses of the dog man running through the shadows. But anyway, very strange how I had service with Beth calling me. And that kind of lit all three of us up a little more. We were kind of real alert and real attentive to make sure to be prepared. And
I'd say so.
Martin's something else. I have a way with the Bigfoot. He has a way with the dog man. But he gets up, gets out of the truck sick, walks right by the campfire, walks right into the woods. I said, "Man, don't go in the woods. What are you doing?" He just kept walking, walked right into the woods. I jumped up to go stay with him, and all of a sudden he starts chanting these loud words out, real, real loud, and in a very serious tone and manner. And after about a minute of that chanting, it got so quiet you could hear a pin drop.
Wow.
And we never had anything else happen the rest of the night. So,
wow.
And, I'm a true believer if you have Jesus Christ in your heart, these creatures know that, and they're scared of Jesus Christ. So
I believe that.
I don't know if that makes them evil or that makes them just an obeyer.
Respect you or respect God or, yeah. Because, go ahead.
Well, Scott Carpenter was a close friend of mine. He's been gone over a year now. He was really close, and we talked, and I had some creatures attack my place back in 2020 for about 3 months. And, I was up all night long thinking these things were trying to kill me. I thought they was going to come in my farm. I thought they were coming in on me. And, I called Scott and said, "Man, how do I rebuke these things?" And he said, "Well, this is how you do it." And he guided me through the whole entire thing, told me how to rebuke them. And I did exactly what he said in 4 corners of my house, 4 corners of my farm. And, the next night I'm sitting in the hallway with my 270 automatic and my 357 Magnum just waiting for these things to come again because they were banging on the side of my house, and they killed all my cats and scared my horses absolutely to death. They did a lot of damage to my house, and I don't know what I ever done to them because I didn't do anything to them. I just don't know why they did that to me. But anyway, I sat there that night and waited, and they didn't come. Well, the next night I sat there and waited. They didn't come. I called Scott and said, "Man, I don't know what happened, but it worked, and they're gone."
Yeah.
And so
I was gonna
It
say.
does work.
I was gonna say, yeah, I hear that a lot, and honestly, when the night I had my experience, it was when I started praying. That's what ended it, and
Oh
I
yeah, yeah.
I
They
heard that a
feel
lot.
they somehow feel the power of Christ or God in your. First of all, these creatures, I don't know about dogmen as much as I do Bigfoot. I know Bigfoot has such an amazing ability to do certain things. They can read you. They know what you're thinking.
Yeah,
They know what your intentions are when you go in, and they also know if you have a good heart or not. I 100% believe that. They know if you have a heart that you're not there to harm them. They will allow you to visit their home. That's their home.
yeah,
That's like you walking into like them walking into your house while you're sitting and watching TV. You're walking into their home.
yeah.
You got to have permission to do that.
100%
And
believe that.
I respect that, and I always address them first thing when I go in. I don't research Bigfoot as much as I used to. I used to do it so regular with my team and by myself, and we went on so many hundreds of calls of people that would call me and had these creatures around their house, and they were terrified of them. But I don't reach them. I don't research Bigfoot as much as I did. I'm more into Dogman now.
I want to hear more
Basically
about that.
because it's such a new cryptid to the community. It's not really new because
No,
Martin had his in 1992, and well, actually it was May of '93. So Martin and I have been friends almost 44 years. So he was chief deputy of the same county that I was mayor in. I was commissioner and alderman, then mayor. I spent about 26 years as elected official, and I'd already had my encounter in '92, and Martin had his in '93, and he and I were real close, and we'd go to lunch and talk to each other because he couldn't tell anybody else. You tell people you've seen a Bigfoot,
yeah,
and then you're
yeah,
not going to be reelected, and especially with a sheriff's department employee, tell them that a werewolf attacked you.
yeah,
You're not too far from going to the nut house.
yeah,
So plus you probably won't keep your job.
yeah.
So it was real quiet, and we secretly talked about it. But it's changed a lot. It's a lot more open now. There's still people that are rude and just quite
Oh,
ignorant.
100%.
But the biggest portion of the people, especially in my group, we don't put up with that.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're going to be smart in our group, you're going to be out the door pretty quick.
100%. I'll agree with that. That's why I love your group.
Everybody shows respect. If you don't agree with a picture or what somebody says, just scroll on to the next one. Don't say anything. So I don't agree with everything I see on there. I'm not sure that I know what it is.
I don't either, but I'm not the one. I'm not out there to judge. Only God
That's what
can.
I'm saying.
Only God can judge.
I know for a fact I've been in positions where something that I've seen with my own eyes and took a picture of.
Yeah.
And I showed it to other people. They can't see anything in there. Yeah. But I could see it because I was there.
You were there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference. And man, and then you brought up another thing. You're talking about Dogman now, and that seems to be something that I'm really intrigued with. I've never had an encounter, never saw one. But when I hear people talk about it, I know they're telling the truth. I mean, they're like, it wasn't a Bigfoot. I mean, it looked like a freaking German Shepherd standing on its hind legs.
Exactly. I've seen parts of many of them, but I'm talking about it. Complete body, complete creature. I've seen 3. And my first one was in 2021 in Tazewell County, Virginia. And it looked like a massive German Shepherd, black with a head about 3 times the size of a German Shepherd.
Holy cow.
Looked identical to a German Shepherd, except it was on 2 feet. When it stopped, it ran on all 4 legs. And when it stopped at a fence line, it stood up with the hind legs and put one leg over and crossed into the woods. So, and it looked like just a huge black German Shepherd, but with more of a muscular looking body. It wasn't huge. It was, judging by the limb of where it crossed, it was about 6 foot 2 inches from the ground to that limb, and that's about where its head was at. So it wasn't I've never seen a Bigfoot over 8 foot, or maybe 8'2", within the 8 foot range. But a lot of people I've talked to have seen them a lot bigger than that. I've seen many of them. I've seen a lot of them.
Yeah.
I've never seen one bigger than that.
Yeah.
And I do believe they are bigger. I just have never seen one.
Yeah, I've heard stories, and I've interviewed some people to where they've said 9-10 foot, but that's generally more northern, like Washington State, maybe Canada. Seems like down here.
Well, my good friend Shell Dion, has probably some of the best footage I've ever seen of numerous things. She does a great job, has a super powerful camera, and gets out and takes pictures of these creatures. And I've been friends with Shell quite a long time, and she'll send me some really good stuff. And oh my gosh, the stuff she's amazing. She gets out there in the middle of the night with her 60-something-year-old mother, and she sits in the car, and her and her daughter are out dog man and Bigfoot hunting. So
that's brave.
she's got some pictures of some humongous Bigfoot. I mean, I don't even know, maybe 16, 17 foot.
Holy cow!
And I've never witnessed anything like that, but her pictures are so credible. She's got some of the best pictures I've ever seen.
I've heard tales of them being that big. So are her photos, like, does she keep them to herself, or are they public?
Well, she has a group that she's very private. Shell's very, very private.
Yeah.
She don't believe in quantity. She believes in quality. So she's had a group called Whisper Walkers for, I don't know, a long time. And I'm a member of it. I'm one of her moderator experts in her group. I think there's 130 or 40 people in that group, and she's just real professional, and she wants people that have knowledge, and people that she just don't want somebody in there that's going to stir up a trouble or don't believe in these creatures. She's got some incredible stuff. Literally incredible. Some of the best pictures I've ever seen. Wow. Best photograph I've ever seen would be hers, a Bigfoot and dog man, the wolf creature. There's a creature called the wolf creature that looks like a dog man, but it's not a dog man. It's more friendly too. And there's a lot of creatures that I don't even know the name of. I personally have not seen a lot of these creatures. I've seen plenty of Bigfoot and 3 dog man, and I've seen this crawler thing, and seen another creature. I have no idea what it was. At the same time we were up there in March, but I haven't seen these different type things that she's captured. But you might hit her up, and maybe she'll come on and share some of that with you.
Right,
she's real funny about people taking her pictures, because people have stolen her pictures before. She gets real upset about it. But,
yeah, I can.
She's got some amazing stuff, and I've got a lot of good friends. Robin Haynes is the top of the list. Jennifer Appleton. I mean, my God, what have they not done? They've done everything you think of. And, there's a lot of people out there like that, that have had so many experiences that it don't even faze them like it does a normal person to have them so often, that it's just like an everyday walk in the park for these people. So, you got Scott Pace down in Louisiana, one of my super close friends. Jeremiah Fountain up in I can't ever pronounce it correctly, the Outer Adirondacks up in New York, super close friend. He's got Dogman in his backyard, and he's got Bigfoot. And I've actually went live with him a couple of years ago, and we were going through the woods and had one walk right by the camera.
No doubt.
So, there's a lot of people out there that are really good experiencers and not just research. I don't call myself a researcher. I call myself an experiencer. But
yeah, I like that.
I just like to, learn something. I try to learn something new all the time. And I don't think you ever quit learning enough about these creatures. Every time I think I know something about Bigfoot, I find out something different. I go to the LBL and they'll be watching me. They know when I come through, and Martin look at me and he goes, they're here, aren't they? And I said, yep, they're to the left up on the hill. And about that time, I hear an owl hoot or a rock or something go flying by. And, they're not all, they just like to get your attention. They want to be They've always got a peeker. When you get out of your vehicle, they know when you got out.
They got a watcher.
They got a watcher. And most of the time it's a juvenile doing a belly crawl, looking over a log.
So
At nighttime, they're a little more open.
So, do you have any feelings on like the mind speak? Because I've heard a lot.
I definitely believe in it. I believe in it 100%.
I do too.
I've actually had them try to mind speak with me before. And quite frankly, I'll tell you what happened on that. I was so frightened of my first experience. I was afraid that they might do something to my mind and attack me, so I wouldn't let them do it. And I didn't allow them to do that. And I haven't. And I've had a few occasions, probably not since 2020, with a Bigfoot trying to communicate with me that way. Now, the best mind speak person in the world, I mean, straight up, most religious, honest guy that there is, Scott Pace, is by far the best mind speaking there is with Bigfoot and other creatures. They've even come into his house with him and his wife.
Oh, wow.
The children that come in and play in is upstairs.
Oh, wow.
So, he has tremendous ability with mind speak, and he's by far the top of the world on that. Some people are just naturally gifted at some things, and he's just naturally gifted at that particular art, and he's good at communicating with them that way. He'll be on the phone with me. He'll call me most every day on his way to work, and we'll talk till he gets there, and he'll be just riding along, and one of my mind speak with him. So, and some people are going to say, oh, I don't believe that.
No, I believe it.
Knowing Scott the way I do, and his true heart, and as honest as he is with the way he believes, I don't have any doubt with Scott.
I think
there's always naysayers. I learned a long time ago. I don't really care whether people believe me or not. I really don't. That's honest to God. I don't care.
I've gotten to that point too.
I know what I've lived. I know what I've seen. So
yeah,
I'm the only person that I have to please with it.
Well, you got me beat on what you've seen and what you've experienced, but I'm the same way. At the beginning, I was like, I don't want to tell nobody, and I kind of kept it. And then, then it got to a point where I saw so many other people telling their stories and being out there and open, and I'm like, well, I could do that too. So, and then that's kind of why I started this, because, granted, you've already put your story out there, and you're not ashamed of it, but I got a feeling that there's a lot of people out there that have stories, that experiences, encounters that they just keep bottled up, and I don't think that's a good thing.
How many people you think about? Now, I know a lot of country folks, so when I say country folks, people, I'm not the youngest guy in the world. Me and Martin and Ryan, all of us are getting up in years. I'm not quite as old as Ron is, but I'm getting there. I've had a lot of years in this stuff. But you got people that are just country folks out in the country that see these things. They don't have a cell phone.
Yeah.
They don't even know how to turn on a cell phone.
Yeah.
They don't want a cell phone.
Yeah.
They don't want nothing to do with no public forum. They just happy what they're doing. And they don't care what you believe or like or not, they just live their life, and that's what they do. So I know plenty of people like that. Good old country folks live in the hills and the hollows, and it's not a fearful thing to them. It's just a natural thing to them, and they don't run around telling everybody all their stories.
Yeah, and in a lot of places, like, honestly, I think get named because these people have been there over the years. Like, there's a spot really close to where I live where a Bigfoot was spotted by a teacher back in like the 1970s, but it was on Woolly Creek, which to me down here they call them, well, like you said, woolly booger,
Yeah.
So that to me that's like 1 + 1 should equal 2. I mean, these people have been seeing them forever, and now that us city folk are moving out into their area, well, then all of a sudden now it's crazy, and it just.
Well, my grandma has been gone a long time, and I was close to all my grandmothers. I had a step grandmother, and I had 2 real grandmothers, and I was very close to all of them. But I was super close to my mom's mom and my granddad. That's the first experience I've had. And then my real dad, who passed away, his mother, who was Lakota Sioux, American Indian, and her abilities were incredible. And she used to tell me when I was a little boy that, you have the abilities to do things. You have a lot of powers. You just have to practice them. She goes, people don't practice them anymore, so they don't know how to use them. And I tried a lot of that stuff with my grandmother. It didn't quite work with me like it did her, but it was. She gave me a lot of knowledge and taught me a lot of things. And when we were kids at the house, spending the night out we're talking about in a rural, out in the middle of nowhere country. But my grandfather, his nearest neighbor was probably a mile away. There was nothing but hills, hollows, and mountaintops, everywhere, just remote. There wasn't anything. It was gravel roads, and my granddad took 2 mules and a wagon to town once a week to get groceries. So, we're talking about out in the country.
Yeah.
And, my grandma used to tell me, now you boys, me and my brothers would be playing in the yard right at dark, and y'all get in the house now because the boogeyman will get you. And I understood what the boogeyman was.
Yeah.
I didn't know it then, but I learned what it was.
Yeah.
So, they really never elaborated on what it was at that time, but they're we call them the native word for them is Chayitanka, which means great elder of the forest, and I still address them like that every time I go into the woods to visit their area, and I'll always go in and I say, "I'm here, Chayitanka."
Chayitanka.
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 Chiyetanka.
Okay, I've not heard that term before.
And I announced that to them. And the ones I've visited for quite a while on the river, they understood exactly what that word meant. So it's an honorable thing to address them that way. You're letting them know that this is their forest and they are the great elder of the forest, and you're just visiting. Yeah. So they always think that they're higher up than we are, and they probably are.
I think they might be. I mean, if you look at most humans, they probably got it going on better than we do. But like you said, I'm sure there's good ones and bad ones, but
there's bad ones and good ones. I have no doubt there's bad ones. I've had experience with several of them that were bad, and you don't never necessarily have to do anything for them not to like you. They just don't like people.
Yeah.
They don't want you around their area, and if you don't leave, they will do something to make you leave.
So, have I already heard your scariest encounter, or with your first one, or is there something that was worse than that?
No, the most fearful thing that ever happened to me was my first encounter. It took me a long time to get over that. I actually had, nightmares about that. That went on for almost 7 years.
Oh wow.
I quit hunting. I didn't go in the woods anymore.
Yeah.
I would just hunt out of my truck in the barnyard field, and just hunt out of the truck. I didn't go in the woods, and it was pretty devastating. If you knew me like my friends knew me, I'm not a person that scares very easy. But this thing was, it was pretty frightening. It definitely meant business, and it wanted me out of there, and I left, and I've never been back to that spot since. I guess my tree stand's still there, and my binoculars are probably still hanging in the tree.
You left your binoculars too?
Oh my gosh, when that thing turned and started walking away, and it turned back and looked at me, and I lowered the bar that was around me on my climbing stand, and I just jumped out of the top of the tree stand about 28 foot up and just slid all the way down.
Excuse my language.
Down through the leaves, and I had my gun above my head, and I slid all the way down we're talking about like a 45-degree angle, hillside, and I slid all the way down into the creek, and I was in the water up to about my waist, and I had my gun above my head, and I took off up out of the creek and ran back to the same direction I came in from, and I was looking back the whole time, waiting for this creature to catch me. And, you don't have 15 minutes to climb down 28 foot up in a climbing stand.
No.
I was feeling lucky enough that it hadn't come and got me.
Well, you're probably 100% right. If it wanted to get you, you'd have been gotten. So
I 100% believe that now. I didn't believe that then.
yeah.
You know, I know a little bit more about them now. You know, when you're in there, they're very territorial. They don't want you in their area unless you have permission.
So, and that's something I've also noticed from people a lot of times, and myself included. I was, very like, I'm interested in them, but I didn't know a lot about them. And then something happens to somebody, then all of a sudden they start to then they really delve into what the creatures really are and how they act, and it kind of lessens your fear of them, I think, after time. But at first you're I don't know, that's the way it was with me. At first I was just terrified like you. But then later,
well, I mean, like I said, my second encounter, I wasn't trying to find a Bigfoot, or I didn't ever want. I didn't ever want to see one again.
yeah,
I was hoping I didn't want to be around them.
yeah.
And basically, I was fishing on a remote area on the Cumberland River in Tennessee when they kept stealing my minnow bucket. I thought it was a person, but it was them. So, but they became my friends. I was real close to that family, and spent nearly 4 years in there. And I was there every day or every other day. I was there regularly for 2 or 3 hours, and then I would go in there in the warm weather, and I'd camp out next to the tree that my 5-gallon bucket was sitting next to, and they were 20 or 30 foot from me in a big kudzu thicket sleeping, and they'd get up and look at me over the thicket, and I became friends with 3 of that family. I didn't become friends with all of them. They all tolerated me and liked me, but they gained trust in me, and I gained trust in them. But if it hadn't been for them, I probably would have never felt like I do now, because I realized that those were nothing like the first one.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like people. There's good people and bad people. And these that wanted no problem with me, and I wanted no problem with them, and I showed them great respect, and they did the same in return for me. So, there's a lot to learn from these creatures. They have their abilities are just amazing. I think about it all the time. I still think about the one that I was very close to. She was a female, and how much she liked me, and she reached out and touched my shoe. She touched my finger, and it took a long time to get to that point. I think it was probably 2.5, 3 years before I got to that point. But
so can you explain that a little bit? I mean, touched your shoe and your finger. Were you like?
Well, I would take them gifts and food and that type thing in there. I learned what they wanted, and they knew what they wanted. And I got them some whistles one time. I didn't know what they'd do with them. They're just plastic whistles that I hung up on the trees around there. And they started using them to blow the whistle. When I came in, I would walk. It's about a 200-yard walk from this game trail to the place I was fishing, and it's very remote. Nobody goes back in there. And they would start blowing those whistles. I'd say, "Hey, I'm here to see you today. Are y'all doing okay?" And I'd hear all these whistles going off. One to the left, one to way back in there, one across the river. I mean, it was just crazy. And I learned a lot from them. And when I say, I never. I tried to befriend those creatures and make them feel comfortable with me. And I was sitting there one morning giving one of them they don't want their food thrown on the ground. They want it on a plate just like we do. They don't want to eat dirty off the ground, and I always did that. There's several things they really like to eat. Their favorite food is cantaloupe. Their favorite meat is cooked bacon, just like we all like.
Heck yeah.
And they love any kind of bread product, especially jelly-filled donuts. And I was giving her a donut and a plate, and I was sliding over toward where she was at, and she reached out with where my hand was at, and she touched the end of my finger with her end of her finger, and it was pretty cool. I never had
pretty cool.
Do that before, and I knew then. Well, she trusts me and knows I'm not here to harm her or her family. And When I first started going in there, she was about 5, maybe 5.5 foot tall. And when I left there, she was probably 6.5 foot tall. But she had a brother. I think it was her brother. I'm not sure. He was behind her. He was always sitting behind her. He was real quiet, never friendly like she was. And then there was a watcher behind those two, and he was about 7 foot tall. He was a juvenile male, and he was friendly. But I've seen other ones. I just seen parts of them, in the cat zoo and between the branches and stuff. But those are the 3 that frequented me regularly.
Did any of the other ones show you any aggression at all?
No.
No?
None of them ever showed me any aggression. None. No, they all trusted me.
That's so cool.
They very well trusted me. And one time I would carry a 5-gallon bucket. I'd carry stuff in it, and I had a little box I'd put together in the forks of the tree above where I would set my bucket, and I'd lean against the tree and talk to them and visit them. And I'd put stuff in the box, any kind of gifts or anything, I'd bring them, unless they wanted to eat something then. And then I would put it in a little plate and push it over, and they'd come out close to it and get it. And, my foot was out there. I stuck my foot out kind of far to see what they would do, and she touched my shoe. So, it was pretty cool. Really
that
was.
Is cool.
I really liked that family a lot. They were really my friends. They really were. I was gaining a lot of confidence and learning a lot from them. And it's the only time they when I would leave, I would say, "I'm leaving now. I'll see you either tomorrow or the next day." I'd say, "Bye. See you later. Bye." And as I'm walking down the trail, I hear from every direction, "Bye, bye, bye." And it was amazing. And,
that's so cool.
They have their own language, like I said, and they know English, they know words, and the female in front, I asked her probably for a year and a half. I said, "My name is Darrell. Please tell me your name." And she would just look at me and kind of shake her head a little bit. And I didn't know if they could speak or not.
Yeah.
I didn't have no idea. I mean, they did speak, but they did it in their own, type of gibberish and stuff they did. But another time when I was given a jelly-filled donut, I said, "I sure wish y'all would tell me your name. My name is Darrell. Please tell me your name." And I'm reaching down, and I'm looking down, and I'm pushing this plate over. I'm not looking at her, and I hear Aletha. And I looked up. I was shocked to death. I said, "That was you? Your name is Aletha?" And she goes,
That's so awesome.
and then the one behind her, the other male, that he was about the same size as her. I asked him, he never would tell me anything. But the one behind him, the bigger juvenile that was about 7 foot tall, not long after she told me that, maybe an hour later, I said, "Can you tell me your name?" He didn't say anything. He just looked at me in a stare, like, trying to figure me out, like they do. And all of a sudden he goes, "Tobias." I said, "Your name is Tobias." He goes.
That's awesome.
So that was the only words I got out of him besides "bye." And, I'm not even sure they knew what I was saying, but they just did it because I didn't know a regular routine. But, they can speak words, and they do. And I ask them so many times, "Where are you from? Did you live here all your life? Are you from I asked them, "Are you from the heavens?" And they just looked at me. And one day I said, "Are you from another galaxy or another planet?" And they went.
I wonder about that stuff.
Again. I asked him again, and the big one went. I said, "You're from another galaxy, another planet." That's all I got.
So no. I totally believe you, because I think there's got to be some kind of connection there, because I've heard.
I don't have a reason. People have told me over the years, because I've told this story many times over the last 20 or 30 years, but people have asked me, "How do you know they weren't lying to you?" Well, what reason do they have to lie to me?
Yeah.
I mean, what's it going to do for them?
Yeah.
So I don't believe that they had that kind of mind thought.
Well, that's a human trait. Doesn't mean that's
it really is. Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's a Bigfoot trait. That's
But it was a very, very awesome thing. That family was just really close to me. A lot of
That
them.
is pretty awesome. That is
They
awesome.
liked me. I liked them, and I took one of my friends in there. I'd never taken anyone in there, and I took one of my friends in there, and he'd heard me talk. Of course, I didn't go around telling everybody I had a family of Bigfoot I was visiting.
Yeah.
This was still 1999, when it started. And it took me a week or so to go back down there after I found out what was still in my man buckets. I was pretty scared of them. I carried my shotgun with me when I went fishing the next time. But anyway, I took a friend of mine with me. He says, "Now, you've been talking about these things a long time." And he was a very close friend of mine. His name was Derry, really good buddy of mine. Grew up together, just thought the world of him. He passed away a couple of years ago. But
I'm sorry.
he said, "I want to go with you. I want to go down there with you." I said, "Well, the creatures don't know you, and I don't want them to be upset if I bring you in there." So I asked them a couple times, "Can I bring my friend in?" I don't know if they really understood me or not. They're a lot smarter than you think they are.
Yeah.
They know a lot more than you think they do. They kind of play a little bit like they're not, but they're a lot smarter than you think they are. They're always going to be one step ahead of you. But and I don't blame them. I mean, look what people have done to them.
Yeah.
Killed them and shot at them and tore their homes down and everything else. So, they're worried about their family, something happening to them. So, anyway, I finally got okay to bring him in. And he rode down there with me one Sunday morning. And I said, "Now, don't go in there and act crazy. Just go in there and sit down next to me and be quiet and still and give them time to come out and look at me and look at you." And, as soon as he seen them, I mean, it was like a panic button went off. He was so scared.
Scared, yeah.
He could not believe that he was seeing these creatures. I mean, he believed me, but he just couldn't believe that they were really that real. He just couldn't get over the fact. He jumps up, he runs as fast as he can, all the way back to Game Trail, gets in my truck, locks the door. And I'm still out there another hour and a half. He's in the truck blowing the horn. And I just stayed and hung out with them, and it kind of weirded them out a little bit. They were
I would think.
I didn't understand why he did that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was the only person and the last person I took there. So he never wanted to go back again.
Well,
it's not for everybody.
Yeah, it's really not. I mean, I can kind of understand if that's his first experience, but he should have had an inkling what he was walking into. But apparently, he didn't believe what he was going to walk into.
Well, he didn't. He was, I asked him that when I got back to the truck. He said, "Well, I was thinking maybe there was something like a chimpanzee or something." I said, "No, they're not a chimpanzee. I told you they're like I still call them the forest people. That's what I call them." So that particular kind I call the forest people. And they're the ones that make the large X's in the trees and the X's on the ground. The X's is their marker that they use for their family name. So that's the ones I always look for if I'm in the woods. If I see a large X, I feel comfortable because I know where they're at. There's not going to be any bad ones around.
No bad mojo.
No, they're going to run them out.
They're very cool. Well,
but anyway, that's part of what I've dealt with.
That is so cool, Darrell. Well, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us tonight. Man, oh man, I could talk to you for hours, but I don't want to keep you.
Well, like I said, I'm just a normal old country boy that's had experiences, and I'm the only thing I'm an expert at. Like I said, was saying my prayers. But
there you go.
I can only talk about what I've experienced with, me and Martin and Barton and Ron too. Ron's Barton Unley's had some amazing things, and Martin Groves has had incredible. We've all just had a lot of stuff happen.
Tell them guys to accept my friend request.
Well, they get, to be honest with you, they're, when you start talking about Ron and Martin, they're well known. Martin's probably the most well known dogman guy in the world.
Yeah, that's so.
And I'll say Ron Moorhead is the most well known Bigfoot guy that ever lived. And you know, and Barton and I are about on the same path. We're good, and we know what we do and what we enjoy doing, hanging out with those two guys, being honored to be their friends. But, you know, they stay so dadgum busy.
Yeah.
I mean, Martin Groves used to call me every day and every night. I mean, it was not a day that went by.
Yeah.
And Ron still either messages me or calls me.
That's so cool.
And Barton still stays in touch. He's got a lot of stuff going on. He's doing a lot of podcasts on his own.
Yeah.
But I still hear from him 2 or 3 times a week, unless we're going out.
That's cool.
But these guys are busy.
Yeah,
really
yeah. Oh, I was just, you know, I know they probably got so much on.
My point was, don't take it to heart. It's not.
I never take it to heart. Trust me, I got plenty of friends.
Well, I don't doubt that a bit. I'm just saying, don't think that they're trying to think they're better.
No. I never do. I never do.
They're really not like that. They're good, down to earth guys. They're just. I don't get to talk to them I don't talk to Martin Groves like I used to, and I mean, I was the best friend he ever had.
Yeah.
And he would tell you that he's on here right now. Still am.
I believe it.
He don't have time. Right now he's doing, I don't know, like 3 movies.
Holy cow.
He's doing another movie that, you know, that I should have been involved. I should have been in with him and Barton, but Ron and I were on the road to the Georgia conference. By the time we got there, they'd already done it. But it'll be a pretty good. We'd all met up at the cabin that night, but they'd already had Greg Ogles and a few other people come in wanting him to take them out in the woods, and something had happened the night while we were gone. But anyway, it ought to be pretty good. He's got that, and he's got his new book coming out, Devil's Backbone. Will be out anytime. Ron Moorhead's got the best book that's ever been written about Bigfoot, called Quantum Bigfoot. Quantum Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I've read it 4 times. Every time I read it, I learn something else. And he's got a Wilderness. He's got another book out right now, The Bigfoot Phenomenal. Barton Ummy's got 5 or 6 books out of his stories and encounters of what he went through growing up. Just all great people, and they're always willing to talk to you if they've got time, and they will.
Yeah, well, that's just the thing. I mean, the people that are really into it, honestly, 99.9% of them just great people, you know?
Yeah, they really are. You know, most people, it's just like, you know, we're just down to earth, good old Southern boys. You know, Ron's from California, but he fits in right up with us now since he's in North Carolina. So, but you know, we just I don't meet too many strangers.
There you go. Yeah, we've been talking like old buddies. We just met.
Yeah, it's you know, it's just what I am. But thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And,
so, is there anything you want to promote before we get off of here?
Well, we got, you know, my Bigfoot Believers and Other Creatures group. You know,
Love that page.
We're about to hit the 50,000 mark.
Wow.
Which I think, I'm not positive, but I was told the last couple of days that we'll be the largest private Bigfoot group in history.
Damn.
And I don't know how true that is, but I've been told that by 3 different people. And, you know, we are a private group. We don't let just anybody in. If you're going to start, we've already deleted almost 15,000 people. So, you know, we'd have a lot more. But if you're going to come in here and start being a troll, you're going to be out the door. So,
I got you.
But anyway, my point is our entire group voted on the top 12 researchers, men and women, and our calendar will be out. I was fortunate enough to be in the top 12, and I'm on the calendar. Ron's on the calendar. Martin and Letitia Nunley are on the calendar.
Perfect. And can you get the calendars on the site?
The calendars haven't come in yet. We just did all the artwork on them, and the calendar company has them. But they'll probably be back either right before Christmas or right after, and anybody can buy one. It'll be the top 12 women and the top 12 men voted by the members.
So cool. Yeah, I remember getting the voter card, but that's awesome.
You know, it was really cool. It really was. I enjoyed doing that. It's a lot of work, you know. I'm not trying to make any money on it. I'm just trying to get my money back. But the calendars will be for sale, and you know, when we get them out, I'll put them online and in the group, and anybody that wants one, we'd sure like you to get one.
Heck yeah, I'm going to get one.
If you go to the conferences, you know, you got just about everybody on there. So that's the conference.
Maybe I'll hang it up right here.
Okay. All right. There you go. I think last year I did I did 12 conferences last year, spoke at 12. But this year I don't know. I've got 3 already scheduled, and I've been asked to do a couple more. But I love going to the conferences just to meet all the good people. That's what I enjoy about that. That's the most fun. Meeting people that want to pick your ear and ask you questions, and it's a lot of fun meeting all these people.
Yeah.
But anyway, I appreciate you having me.
All right. Well, I sincerely appreciate you coming on, Darrell. Really, really, from the bottom of my heart. It was an honor. And thanks, Darrell, and my buddy Dirty over there, and everybody out there in the cryptid land. Keep it creepy.
Yeah. Out in the woods where the shadows creep, I'm trying to find the legend that the people keep. Bigfoot's the name, got a story to tell. Footprints in the mud, can't you hear the bell? Whispers in the night, can you feel that chill? Bigfoot on the run, he's a legend, keep it real. Bigfoot, yeah, he's the talk of the town. Creeping through the trees, never wearing a frown. Legend of the forest, he's got a big stride. As the trap beats thump, you know he's got pride. Like I'm on a quest, searching for the homie, you know he's the best. Got my camera ready, heightened senses on blast. Snap a shot of Sasquatch, legend unsurpassed. Eyes in the dark, you can't catch what you can't see. King of the woods, living wild and free. Bigfoot, yeah, he's the talk of the town. Creeping through the trees, never wearing a frown. Legend of the forest, he's got a big stride. As the trap beats thump, you know he's got pride.